On April Fool's Day, an anonymous message hit everyone's phone simultaneously. The bigger the joke you tell today, the more money you make. A colleague casually teased me, "Your shoelaces are untied." The next second, his phone vibrated with a deafening chime. Ding! $10,000 has been deposited into your account. My boyfriend stood right in front of me and said, "I'm actually seeing your best friend." Almost instantly, another chime followed. Ding! $100,000 has been deposited into your account. The entire city went insane in an instant. Some fabricated terminal illnesses, others faked their own deaths, and families turned against each other for a payout. The more vicious the lie, the higher the bounty. Countless people became overnight millionaires through the system. But I kept my mouth shut, refusing to utter a single word. What they didn't know was that this wasn't a blessing. It was a death warrant. Every single joke would be repaid in blood, cent by cent, exactly at midnight. In my past life, I was a professional stand-up comedian. I made a living out of spinning beautiful, elaborate lies. I used the system to amass billions, standing at the pinnacle of wealth, thinking I had won the game of a lifetime. But when the clock struck 12, the jokes backfired. I died a gruesome death on the street. When I opened my eyes again, I was back on the morning the April Fool's game began. On April Fool's Day, just after 9 in the morning, everyone's phone buzzed at once. There was no sender, no source. A cold system pop-up hijacked every screen in the city. The prank system is now active. The bigger the prank, the higher the bounty. Happy April Fool's Day, everyone. At first, everyone treated it like a ridiculous scam. We tapped our screens trying to swipe it away, not taking it seriously. That was until Wade, a guy from the marketing department, turned to me. "Lydia, your shoelaces are untied." I instinctively looked down at my feet. I was wearing stilettos today. There wasn't a shoelace in sight. The office erupted in laughter. People patted Wade on the shoulder, joking, "Nice try, Wade. You really thought she'd fall for that old trick?" The next second, Wade's phone let out a sharp, piercing mechanical female voice that drowned out the laughter.
Ding!
Your joke was quite amusing. Congratulations. $10,000 has been deposited. Since this is your first success, your reward has been multiplied by 10. Notification sounds from bank apps began to chime across the room like a symphony. The crowd, which had been skeptical a moment ago, was instantly set on fire. My heart sank. I knew that this carnival of death, disguised as an April Fool's prank, had begun once again. Another colleague, Zach, suddenly grabbed our manager by the collar and roared, "I saw you screwing the new intern in the break room last night." I saw everything. The manager froze, then reacted by slapping Zach across the face. "Bullshit. You think I don't know you've been thirsting after my wife for years?" Two sharp system chimes rang out almost simultaneously.
Ding!
Your joke was hilarious. $5,000 has been deposited.
Ding!
Your joke was even better. $6,000 has been deposited. The office went completely feral. More and more people began to figure out the rules. The more vicious, the more scandalous, and the more disgusting the lie, the higher the payout. No one cared about how cruel the jokes were anymore. No one thought any of this was absurd. They just felt that money was now easier to get than the air they breathed. I quietly backed away toward the floor-to-ceiling window, distancing myself from this pack of wolves blinded by greed. Looking down at the street, the entire city was falling into the same madness. On the corner, a couple was screaming at each other, their eyes filled with nothing but lust for money. The man yelled, "I never loved you. I only stayed with you to get close to your mother." The woman didn't back down. "Well, let me tell you something. This baby I'm carrying is actually your father's."
Ding!
$8,000 has been deposited. The sharp chimes echoed through every street and alley. Young and old alike were trapped in this frenzy. I couldn't help but close my eyes in pain as memories of my past life rushed back like a tidal wave. The agonizing pain of my death hadn't yet faded from my soul. In my last life, I wasn't just an office clerk. I was a top-tier roast comic, famous across the internet for my sharp tongue. Setting up punchlines and crafting offensive jokes was my bread and butter. Pranking people was second nature to me, so I had been just like these maniacs. I earned billions through the system, thinking I was the smartest person in the room. But at midnight, the settlement began. Every joke turned into a vicious curse, recoiling on me with double the intensity. I died in the gutter, my body torn apart. The pain of being mangled by cars and disemboweled by the very words I spoke was still vivid in my mind. This April Fool's celebration was just the foreplay. The midnight settlement was the true purpose of this terrifying system, and no one would escape. This wasn't a wealth-building program, it was a blood contract. Oh, look at Lydia. Too busy daydreaming to make some real money with us. A snide voice drifted over. It was Vance, a colleague who had always been jealous of the money I made for my comedy gigs. His account balance had already multiplied dozens of times, and he looked at me with pure disdain. I didn't bother looking at him. I just replied coldly, "No thanks. With your brain, even with the system, you probably won't earn enough to buy a soul. Stop acting so high and mighty. I bet you won't be able to keep your mouth shut for long. You'll be just like us by sunset." I curled my lips into a faint smile and turned away, not giving him another glance. In my last life, on settlement day, he fell straight off the roof of this building. He was so mangled there wasn't enough left of him to put in a casket. He didn't understand. I wasn't being arrogant. I was trying to survive. And staying silent was only the first step. While everyone else was biting each other like rabid dogs, I grabbed my bag and walked out. I headed straight for the largest wholesale grocery store in the area. I stocked up on cases of bottled water, canned goods, fresh meat, and basic medical supplies. The people in the store and the clerk stared at me like I was an idiot, whispering and laughing. I knew exactly what they were thinking. Why struggle with heavy boxes when you could just tell a lie and have money fall from the sky? With enough money, you could buy anything. But only I knew that after the April Fool's madness, the currency would collapse. Soon, the city would be filled with billionaires, and hyperinflation would spiral out of control. A single bottle of water would eventually cost tens of millions. At that point, cash would be nothing more than scrap paper. No amount of wealth could buy a single drop of life-saving water. Right now, the system had just started. The market hadn't reacted yet, and supplies were still available. If I didn't hoard now, I wouldn't even have a place to cry later. After packing everything into my car, I sat on a park bench, waiting for the phone call I knew was coming. Dorian, my ex-boyfriend, was the scumbag who had pushed me into the abyss in my last life. Back then, the first joke he told me was, "I'm actually seeing your best friend, Sloane." Later, that joke became reality. Those two teamed up and swindled me out of every cent I earned from the system. They watched me die on the street and didn't even blink. At the exact same time as my previous life, my phone rang. The caller ID read, "Dorian." I answered it. His voice came through, faking a cold, distant tone. "Lydia, let's break up. I'm with Sloane now." In my past life, hearing those words had sent me into a panic. I couldn't tell if he was joking or serious. But this time, I felt absolutely nothing. I could even hear Sloane's muffled giggles and their whispered playfulness on the other end of the line. Last time, my heartbreak had been part of their sick foreplay. "Sure, we're done," I said, my voice as flat as a straight line. There was a stunned silence on the other end. Then, Dorian immediately switched to his slimy, affectionate tone. "Happy April Fools, babe. I was just kidding. Why are you being such a buzzkill?" Before he could finish, a sharp chime rang through the phone.
Ding.
$10,000 has been deposited. I wasn't joking. By the way, I hope you both rot in hell. I snapped. I hung up before he could respond and blocked him on everything. At noon sharp, every phone in the city vibrated again. A new system pop-up appeared, carrying a playful but lethal tone. I forgot to mention, everyone only gets 10 joke quotas. From now on, the bounty for each joke is multiplied by 10.
I'm not joking about this one.
The timeline was matching my previous life perfectly. The moment the rules were announced, a bright red number appeared above everyone's head. It represented their remaining joke quota. After the morning frenzy, most people had already squandered their 10 chances. Some only had 1 or 2 left. It was nearly impossible to find someone with a full quota left. In my last life, I had spent the whole morning writing scripts for high-value jokes. By sheer luck, I hadn't used a single one by noon. As a result, I became the 1 in a million lucky target. It was happening again. A bright red, 10 of 10, appeared above my head. The people around me immediately cast strange, greedy glances my way. Some even pulled out their phones to record me. I didn't want to draw any more attention. I clutched my bag and rushed home to organize my supplies. Not long after, there was a violent scratching at my front door. The sound of a key being forced into the lock was ear-piercing. I didn't need to guess who it was. The door burst open. Dorian's eyes locked onto the red number above my head, and he practically started salivating.
Babe,
You still have all 10. That's incredible. I still have a chance. Sloane followed right behind him, instantly putting on a fake, pouty face, as if she were my concerned sister. Lydia, stop being so dramatic. Dorian told me you wanted to break up. He's devastated. It was just an April Fool's joke. Why take it so seriously? I looked at the numbers above their heads. As expected, both were at arrow 10. They had run out of ways to rake in cash, so they came for mine. Seeing my silence, Dorian dropped his aggressive act and fell to his knees. He started sobbing, tears streaming down his face. Babe, I've been planning our wedding. All the money I earn from the system will go toward our future home, but I'm out of chances. Thank God you still have yours. If you make enough today, we'll be set for life. Sloane chimed in, grabbing my arm and acting pathetic. Lydia, I used mine up too. I only made a few million, and it's already gone. I just ordered a Panamera and haven't paid for it yet. You're a pro comedian. You can make billions. You'll help us, right? Their synchronized performance was enough to make me want to vomit. You two don't need to put on a show for me. I'm not using the system today, not once. Get out. I turned around to close the door. Seeing that his manipulation wasn't working, Dorian lost his patience. He lunged at me, pinning me against the wall. His hand clamped around my throat, squeezing so hard I could barely breathe. Just as I was about to strike, another group of people burst through the door. It was my parents, along with my younger brother Buster, a middle schooler who already weighed 250 pounds. Buster rushed forward and tackled Dorian away from me, standing in front of me like a wall of meat. Lydia, don't be scared. We're here to save you. My mother rushed over, grabbing my arm with heartfelt concern. Lydia, honey, we came specifically to take you back home. It turned out that during my short walk home, the news of my full quota had already gone viral. Someone had uploaded a video of me, and it was trending everywhere. My parents hadn't come for me out of love. They had smelled the money. They dragged me back to their cramped old apartment. When the door opened, I froze. The tiny, dilapidated living room was filled with men in expensive suits. These were powerful, wealthy men. People my parents would never have been able to meet under normal circumstances. One look at their quotas told me everything. They were all at 0 or 1. They weren't here for a chat. They were here for a kill. As soon as I entered, the room full of wolves looked at me like I was a prime ribeye steak. Gentlemen, this is the one. The girl with the full quota from the internet. She's my daughter, my mother announced with a sycophantic grin. My father crowded in next, his eyes clouded with pure greed. All right, big shots. I brought her. Let's hear the bids. 30 million, someone shouted immediately. Too low. I made more than that just by telling someone their parents were dead. You should be ashamed of that offer. 100 million. I'll pay 100 million. 200 million. The noisy bidding war made my ears ring. In the chaos, I noticed someone sitting in the far corner. He was sitting in the shadows, away from the light. He carried a cold, commanding aura, and hadn't said a word. Looking at his silhouette, I felt a strange sense of familiarity. He was the only one who wasn't screaming like a maniac. An obese man in a shiny suit lunged toward me, his hands outstretched. My eyes went cold. I pulled the knife from my pocket and slashed a long, bloody line across his face. Anyone who takes another step dies. Try me. The crowd recoiled, startled by my sudden violence. I tried to use the moment to bolt for the door and ran to my car and booked it out of there. My tires screamed against the pavement as I tore through the city. Every traffic light had become meaningless. Luxury cars smashed into storefronts. People hung out of windows screaming the most vile things they could think of just to hear the sweet mechanical ding afterward. Ding! $800,000 has been deposited. Ding! $2 million has been deposited. The city sounded like a casino from hell. My hands tightened around the steering wheel. I needed somewhere isolated. Somewhere no one could find me before midnight. Then my phone rang again. Unknown number. I rejected it immediately. It rang again.
And again.
Then a message popped up. Lydia, don't make this difficult. We know where you're going. My blood went cold. I glanced in the rearview mirror. 3 black SUVs were following me. Of course they were. In my last life, this happened too. Once people realized I still had all 10 quotas, I became the rarest resource in the city. To them, I wasn't a person anymore. I was a walking lottery ticket worth billions. I slammed the accelerator harder. The SUVs sped up. One swerved beside me, nearly forcing me into oncoming traffic. A man leaned out the window screaming, "Just tell one joke. We'll give you half." Another shouted, "You don't even need all 10. Give us 3. I ignored them. The red light ahead turned green just before I reached it. I shot through the intersection. The SUVs weren't as lucky. A delivery truck plowed straight into one of them. Metal exploded across the road. People inside the nearby buildings didn't even scream. They just pulled out their phones and recorded it. I kept driving until the city's skyline disappeared behind me. By sunset, I reached an abandoned campground deep in the mountains. Just like last time. Except in my previous life, I came here to celebrate becoming rich. This time, I came here to survive. I unloaded my supplies into an old ranger cabin and barricaded every entrance with furniture. Then I checked the time. 8:47 p.m. 3 hours until settlement. Outside, the world was getting quieter. That was the scariest part. By now, most people had already exhausted their quotas. The frenzy was ending, and the waiting had begun. I sat on the floor clutching the hunting knife in my lap. At 9:13 p.m., the first scream echoed through the mountains. A woman's scream.
Long.
Horrific. Then suddenly cut off. My stomach twisted. Settlement had started early again. Not everyone died exactly at midnight. The system liked to prepare people first. My phone lit up nonstop with emergency alerts, live stream clips, and trending videos. A famous influencer who had lied about having cancer suddenly began vomiting blood during a live stream. A man who joked that his boss should get hit by a bus was dragged beneath 1 minute later. A woman who claimed her husband was infertile watched her newborn stop breathing in her arms. Every lie was becoming reality. Every joke demanded payment. And the worse the joke, the crueler the punishment. My phone vibrated again. This time it was a citywide emergency broadcast. A distorted mechanical voice filled the screen. Settlement phase has begun. Please enjoy the consequences of your humor. Then videos flooded social media faster than anyone could process them. People burned alive. People jumped off buildings while screaming they couldn't control their bodies. Some clawed at their own throats as invisible forces crushed their windpipes. The entire internet became a live broadcast of hell. I shut my phone off. I already knew what came next. Silence. Then,
Bang.
something slammed against the cabin door. I froze. Another bang. Then scratching. Slow. Deliberate. My breath caught in my throat. A familiar voice whispered from outside. Lydia.
Dorian.
I didn't move. His voice cracked like he was crying. Please help me. Another voice joined him.
Sloan.
We were wrong. Please let us in. I walked silently toward the boarded window and peeked outside. The sight nearly made me recoil. Dorian and Sloan stood in the darkness covered in blood. No, not covered. Splitting. Their skin was literally tearing open inch by inch like invisible hooks were pulling them apart from the inside. Dorian sobbed hysterically while trying to hold his stomach together with both hands. I didn't mean it, he screamed. I didn't mean any of it. A system notification suddenly rang beside my ear.
Ding.
Joke settlement in progress. Infidelity joke detected. Reality synchronization commencing. Sloane suddenly began shrieking. Her stomach started swelling grotesquely beneath her shirt. Bigger, bigger, bigger. Like something inside her was inflating at impossible speed. In the apartment earlier, she had joked about being pregnant with someone's child to scam money from another man. Now the system was making it real. Bones cracked loudly beneath her skin. Her abdomen burst open. With a wet explosion across the snow, Dorian collapsed screaming beside her. Then his phone rang. The mechanical voice spoke cheerfully. Congratulations. Your joke about eternal love has been validated. You may now accompany your beloved forever. A second later, his body twisted violently backward. Crack. Every bone in his spine snapped simultaneously. His corpse folded toward Sloane's remains like a broken puppet. Just like lovers embracing. I stared through the window expressionlessly while their blood spread across the ground outside my cabin. In my previous life, I begged those two to save me while I died in the street. This time, I listened to them scream until they went silent. Then I returned to the corner of the cabin and kept waiting, because midnight still hadn't arrived. And the truly terrifying people, the ones who became billionaires today, hadn't started dying yet. 11:59 p.m. The final minute arrived. The entire world fell silent. No screams, no sirens, no notification sounds. It was as if the city itself was holding its breath. Then every phone, television, billboard, and electronic screen flickered to life simultaneously. The same mechanical female voice echoed across the planet. Final settlement commencing. Please review your earnings. Outside my cabin window, the mountains glowed faintly red. In the distance, the city looked like it was burning. The first death came instantly. A man on a live stream who had earned $47 billion by spreading fake disaster reports suddenly began convulsing. His viewers watched in horror as airplanes literally started falling from the sky around him. One crashed directly into his penthouse. The stream cut to black. Another woman who made millions joking that her entire family should die for insurance money watched her mansion collapse with everyone inside, including herself. Every lie became fate. Every joke became judgment. The richer they were, the worse the punishment. And tonight, the wealthiest people on earth were dropping like flies. My phone buzzed one final time. A personal settlement notification. Settlement target. Lydia Hart. Current joke count 1. Debt calculation in progress. I stared at the screen.
1.
Only one joke. The final thing I said to Dorian. I hope you both rot in hell. Cold sweat slid down my neck. I had forgotten. Even curses counted. The screen continued loading. Then,
ding.
Emotional sincerity detected. Statement classified as genuine wish instead of humor. Settlement voided. I nearly collapsed from relief. Outside, the screams intensified. The city below had fully descended into apocalypse. Skyscrapers burned. Cars crashed endlessly through the streets. People clawed at invisible forces, dragging them into the dark. Those who joked about murder slaughtered each other with their own hands. Those who lied about love died abandoned and alone. Those who mocked starvation ripped each other apart for scraps of food. The system wasn't just killing them. It was turning humanity into the punchline. Then suddenly, every screen in the world changed again. A single line of text appeared. Congratulations. April Fool's Day has ended. For surviving the settlement, you have been promoted. My blood froze.
Promoted?
Another message appeared beneath it. Preparing next event. Judgment Day begins in 30 days. I felt the air leave my lungs.
No.
No. This wasn't the end. April Fool's had only been the first round. Then, for the first time ever, the system displayed a number. Worldwide survivors remaining. 0.003%. Almost everyone was dead. Billions reduced to ashes in a single night. And somehow, I was still alive. My cabin suddenly creaked behind me. I spun around instantly, knife raised. The man from my parents' apartment stood silently in the corner shadows. The one who never bid. The one who never spoke. Even now, he looked calm, untouched. Above his head floated a bright red number. 10 out of 10. My blood ran cold. Impossible. He smiled faintly. Looks like we're the same kind of monster, Lydia. Then his phone chimed.
Ding.
Settlement exempted. Administrator privileges recognized. The color drained from my face. The man looked at me quietly before extending his hand. Come with me if you want to survive the next game. Behind him, outside the cabin window, the world burned to the ground.